All right, let's get into some movie reviews without any politics. But it's a movie about politics.
Dick Cheney, ain't he the sexiest man alive?
I got a plan. I know the direction, the lay of the land.
When you have power, people will always try to take it from you, always.
Nothing can break me down. I'm the man.
Are you even more ruthless than you used to be?
Right hand to God, first in command. My testimony, but I take the stand.
So I saw Vice today, starring Christian Bale, Amy Adams, Steve Carell, and Sam Rockwell. The acting in this movie was impeccable. Christian Bale as Dick Cheney, he was unrecognizable. He really dove into this role. He gained a bunch of weight for it. I stopped remembering it was Christian Bale. I'll be honest. He did such a good job. All his mannerisms, he really engulfed himself as Dick Cheney. I love that. Sam Rockwell also as George Bush. He did a great impression of him, I guess. It was funny, you know, all that, because George Bush is one of the funniest politicians in history. Some of the stuff he said while he was in office is some of the most quotable stuff ever.
I know the human being and fish can coexist peacefully. There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, "Fool me once, shame on you." If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
Amy Adams did okay as Dick Cheney's wife. I was happy with her performance. She has been totally killing me with these past Justice League as Lois Lane. She has nothing to do. At least she had something to do in this. She had a part in the role. And that's all I want from somebody. Steve Carell was really good. Steve Carell plays somebody, I guess, who mentored Dick Cheney in his political career. And he did a good job, man. He plays the sleazeball really good. I really appreciated that. Tyler Perry makes an appearance as Colin Powell. And actually, he looked like him a little bit. And I was like really convinced he was Colin Powell. I mean, the makeup and hair or whatever you want to call it in this movie was really good. Like, these people look like who they were trying to portray. I really appreciated that part of this movie of the detail they put as far as the characters are concerned. Like, they really took the time to make these people look like these people. And I don't know, I was really, really impressed by that. And especially the acting, too. Everybody was so involved in the role, and you can tell they really did the research. Adam McKay, he's the director. He's mostly known for his comedies, but he's come out with things like The Big Short, which I really, really enjoyed. It was a great film. He went from comedy and he went into serious film, and I think he did it very seamlessly, because when I heard he was making a serious movie, I was like, man, get out of here, man. This is the same guy who's making these Will Ferrell movies. There's no way it's going to be good, and it was a great film, man. He's a good filmmaker. Does he need some work? Yes, because I have a lot of problems with this movie. The issue I have with this movie is the pacing. This movie is 2 hours and 12 minutes, and it feels like it's 3 hours. I don't know what happened, but there is parts in this movie that just drag on. A lot of stuff doesn't need to be in it. I understand where he was trying to, like, get everything in there and make everything work, but Jesus, you didn't need all this. I was sitting in that theater like, there's even a scene where they act like the movie's going to end, and I started laughing because it was so funny. Everything on the screen, you could tell they were lying. And they rolled credits and everything. And I was like, oh, that's funny. They're going to stop. But the movie went on for forever. The movie went on forever after that. And I'm not saying it wasn't interesting, because I love political movies. I love digging into how politics are. I do really like that stuff. I love political movies, but this one was digging into stuff that didn't need to be dug into. It just made it go on forever. Adam McKay has a very different style of directing and editing. And sometimes I appreciate it. Sometimes I'm like, okay, this is okay. Like, he goes places a lot of filmmakers don't go. He likes to go very meta. Like, there's things that seem so unorthodox that you go, oh, okay. Like, there's a weird scene where a waiter's giving everybody the specials, but it's all this government things, you know, these government policies, and Dick Cheney says, I'll take all of that. You know, it's kind of different, but I like it. And he likes to break the fourth wall. He likes to have the character look at the camera and explain what's going on. Because a lot of this stuff, it will go over a lot of people's head if he didn't explain it. And I think a lot of people have a problem with that because they say the audience isn't smart enough. But even with the last movie, The Big Short, a lot of these real estate things that they were talking about, nobody would really understand unless you explained them. So he tried to find a way in the story to explain these things. And I do appreciate that. But sometimes it does feel like you're getting knocked over the head with it. But at the same time, you know, a lot of people don't understand bureaucracy. A lot of people don't understand, you know, a lot of these political things. And I appreciate him trying to explain that to the audience. But at the same time, when you talk to somebody who's into politics, we don't need to be beat over the head with it. We understand what's going on. Another thing about this movie, I can tell they took a lot of liberties with this movie as far as the stories goes. And they even make it a point to say that they're taking liberties with these things. Like, they said, I'm sure it didn't happen like this, but I'm going to show you how we want it to look like it happened, but then we're going to show you how it actually happened. And he just goes, I guess we'll go ahead with that. Whatever. I'm fine with that. I'm totally fine with taking liberties. It's based on a true story. I get sometimes you got to add a little couple things in there, but I don't know if I like the fact that they took the liberties and they told you they were fucking bullshitting, and then they showed you what probably really happened. I don't know how. I think that shit could have been cut. Just show how it really happened. Why you got to be extra with it? I don't know. I'm sure a lot of the movie and what happened is what happened because this stuff was in the tabloids. I remember a lot of this stuff. When I grew up, I remember Dick Cheney. I remember Bush. I remember 9/11. I remember all these things, and that's fine. But at the beginning of the movie, they made it clear that this was one of the most secretive politicians of all time, and they did their, quote, fucking best to get the story, right? That's fine. I'm totally cool with that. I was into that. I was into, like, this guy is so secretive and he was so good at being a politician and being sneaky that they did their best. But there's this after credit scene of the movie that totally fucked me up. So they say at the end of the movie, they have a Trump supporter and they have some fucking beta male debating about the movie, and they said, I don't like this movie because it's a liberal movie. I wasn't even thinking about that. I thought this was a movie about a man and what he did. It was dirty politics, and he found his way around it. That's what I thought it was. But they tacked in this end. They tacked it in at the end of the movie like, this is such a liberal movie. I wasn't even thinking about that until you fucking threw it in my face. Are you fucking kidding me? So he said, this seems like a liberal thing. And then of course, the Trump guy's a redneck. And of course, the liberal guy's a fucking cuck. So then they start fighting and shit. I wasn't even thinking about that. I thought you were just trying to make a movie. Why does every movie have to turn into like a Trump thing? There has to be a character that represents Trump. There has to be this. There has to be that. Why? Just make a movie about the guy's life. It's not a big deal. That took this movie down a peg so far for me. Not trying to get political with this review, because my political views are my own views, but you did not have to put that in there. This is not about Trump. This is about Dick Cheney. This is about Bush. It's about that whole administration. We all know that shit was crazy. We know that was a crazy time for everybody. 9/11 was crazy for everybody. We don't have to tackle on what's going on right now. Let that shit play out. just stop that shit. Every fucking movie. I swear to God. I'm trying to go to the movies and see a movie. Everything has to be about Trump right now. Anyway, but like I said, this movie drags on a lot. There's a lot of things about, it has this weird thing where it's like trying to show Dick Cheney as like a very humble guy. Like he does a lot of right things for his family, especially his daughter who ends up being a lesbian, and he's trying to do the right thing by her. And you really care about that. And they want you to think he's a good dad and he's all about his family. Everything he does is about his family, and he's working for his family. But you're really not rooting for this guy at the end of the day. And that's okay, because this guy played dirty politics. He got it where he could. He did what he had to do. And I'm okay with that. I know he's a piece of shit. I know there's a lot of things in that presidency that I didn't agree with when it was going on. Republican or Democrat. The thing about this movie is they try to make it like it's a liberal thing. We could make the same movie about Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation. Right now, somebody can make a movie about that. So to make it like it's one side or the other is ridiculous to me, because politics are dirty in general. We know about Benghazi, we know about that. I'm not going to get into politics, but I'm telling you, that last part of that movie fucking pissed me off, because it went from a movie about somebody's life and something messed up that happened to everybody. We all know it's messed up that happened. There were things that were going on that were not kosher. We get that, right? But then to make it a liberal Republican thing was totally out of the thing. Just make the story about the person. Okay? But at the end of the day, the acting in this movie is impeccable. These people dove into these roles like I'd never seen before this year. I mean, these guys really embody these people. Like I said, the pacing was weird. Adam McKay does this weird artsy stuff that doesn't belong in this movie. He always tries to do like a little artsy thing to make it seem like, oh, I'm a different kind of director and all this stuff. And he throws these weird, like the whole end of the movie is like, it's not a spoiler, but at the end of the movie he shows like all these weird fish hooks of America and stuff. I didn't get that shit. Whatever. I'm fine with it. But Vice, it's a competent movie. It's fine. Like I said, the acting's amazing. I love every actor in this movie. I loved everything about this movie. The pacing was a little off, but it was telling a good story. And I do appreciate that. Adam McKay, keep making movies. Keep doing what you're doing. I love it. But damn, just make the movie. So for my review of Vice, I'm going to give this a 7.5 out of 10. If it was up to the acting and the cinematography, I'd give it a 9. But because of the pacing, because it felt so long, when it was only 2 hours, it felt like it was 3.5 hours, I'm going to give it a 7.5. I'm working on my new set right now. It's going to be a lot better. Check me out. Subscribe, like. Thank you. Bye.
His heart is broken, but somehow he'll survive. Dick Cheney, ain't he the sexiest man alive?